Our whole universe was in a hot, dense state that nearly 14 billion years ago expansion started. Wait, the earth began to cool, the autotrophs began to drool, Neanderthals developed tools, we built a wall. We built the pyramids. Math, science, history, unraveling the mystery that all started with a big bang.
Hello YouTube! Good morning class, this is Pablo Manrique, and today we're going to talk about a little bit about the history of humankind. Since we don't have much time, we are not, of course, going to talk about the entirety of it, but we'll deal with, well, just a tiny portion and some general concepts to understand it. So that, well, if you look at anything about the history of mankind, you can completely understand it just with its basic concepts. So first of all, we're going to start off with a little bit of history about the past, like, what, 15 years. Since, well, that's very recent history, and that's a good way to start for people interested in history. So first of all, we're going to start with 2001. That's a good year to start for the last 15 years. The most important event from that year would be the 9/11 tragedy. Of course, it happened as the name first on September 11th. It was a terrorist attack led by the terrorist group Al Qaeda. Um, the terrorist attack was an attempt of protest against the U.S. Well, what they did was they kidnapped some planes and crashed them to well, two towers, the twin towers that were as, well, not only a symbol but an actual place of capitalist interaction. So that's why they chose the target, and until now it is one of the biggest tragedies of the country's history. Um, well, then we're going to follow with 2004. Not such a tragic year. On 2004, actually on February 4th, we have the invention of Facebook. The invention of Facebook is actually a very important date because it actually marked the social network era for humanity. It's actually very important if we realize how many people actually use social networks to this day. And daily, actually, it's amazing how we've moved from, well, just simple social interaction until actual interaction through the internet. And then we're going to follow it up with 2005. We got, well, very close dates. February the 14th, actually, we all know, but well, the event year, well, the date yearly means of what it happens yearly. But today we're not going to talk about the yearly event, but an actual one-time thing that happened on February 4th, 2005. The webpage YouTube was actually created. YouTube is also a big social network, but and this one has not the same sort of importance as Facebook. Facebook its creation actually marks the birth of, well, the era of social networks, but what YouTube marks is actually, well, the start of something different. Actually, with this, we, well, we could actually mark from in a few years the death of television as we know it. Actually, the way advertisement, well, a lot of things were changed since YouTube was introduced, entertainment, everything. Well, after that, we can follow up the same year, but we're moving on to August the 23rd to be exact, where with Hurricane Katrina, also one of the biggest tragedies in the United States history. Hurricane Katrina was actually a natural disaster that attacked the west coast of the U.S. and destroying lot, and I mean a lot of cities, almost demolished them, and, well, of course, led to the death of a bunch of people. And to this day, like I said, it's actually one of the biggest tragedies in the country's history. Well, after 2005, we're going to move all the way to 2008, actually to November the 4th, 2008. with the introduction of President Barack Obama. This was actually the day that this candidate was elected. Uh, Barack Obama was actually um, the first African American president. Oh, we forgot one fact actually on the 20th of September, and this is actually one of the reasons why President Barack Obama is actually really important for the history of the world. On September the 20th, 2008, the U.S. suffered one of the biggest economic crisis on the history of humanity. Actually, the biggest on the country's history since the Great Depression. That's actually one of the reasons why Barack Obama is a very important person to this world because he was actually the one that got the U.S. back on track and lifted the country from the ground for that economic crisis. So that's one of the many things that he did during his presidency. He also helped a lot. He finished a lot of wars, unnecessary wars, in my opinion, that got the U.S. involved in a lot of conflicts. He also, of course, helped with racism, since, of course, being the first African American president, a very impressive person. Then we're going to move all the way to 2009, the 25th of July, actually, with the death of Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson, well, this is not a date that actually changes the way society works like all of the others, but this is actually a very impactful event since Michael Jackson was actually the, sort of the one-man Beatles of our time, and his death meant a lot to a bunch of people in the world, but most importantly, his life. His life changed a lot of people in many ways. He also helped with a lot of social problems with his songs. He was very influential, of course. After this, we're going to move to January the 12th, 2010, with an earthquake in Haiti. And of course, we that I all remember this was a sharing tragedy to everyone, literally for some people. Um, this event actually, well, uh, the kind of tragedy this was on a much bigger scale than what it should have been, considering the country, the social and economic position uh, that didn't allow it to withstand a chance against this tragedy. But, well, of course, this event is not only about tragedies, since it unified uh, the world almost literally in helping this poor country get back from the from um, its remains almost literally as well. To a much happier note, we're going to move to the 1st of March. No, I'm sorry, to 21st of December of 2012. And what happened here? Well, actually, this event is not actually important for what it happened. It's actually important for what it didn't happen. This was the day the world was actually supposed to end. And, I don't know if you know this, but, for at least most people, it hasn't happened yet. So that was a real surprise. Sure as hell was. But yeah, uh, that's what happened in 2012. And finally, we're going to go to the 1st of March 2013. And this was actually the date in which MySpace was taken down from the internet when it closed down. This is an important event because it marked um, the death of one of the predecessor of social media era as we know it today, and instead actually well, actually marked the cement of the powerhouses of this movement that to this day are still Facebook and Twitter. Yeah, that's pretty much what the 10 most important events from the past decade are. Well, the past 50 years are, in my opinion. And thank you for listening to this. And right now we're going to go ahead and follow it up with some of the most important terms to understand history itself. Okay. Alright, I'm now following it up with the actual historical terms to understand history itself. Any kind of history for literally any actual person interested in history at all. With knowing these concepts, you would be able to understand almost every event of history, at least for recent history, that is, because they're actually most of them are actually very new concepts, and that's what's interesting about them. So, let's go ahead and just dive into them. First of all, we're going to talk about globalization, and globalization is a concept that refers to the actual process of the world where it is actually becoming more like each other instead of having very separate entities. It's a process in which everything was actually getting more like other. So that's basically what globalization is. It also talks about a lot about communication and sharing of culture and information. That's also a very important factor of globalization, which also relates to the actual well transformation of everything to just slowly to just very similar culture or a global culture that is. Um, okay, and then we're going to talk about tourism. And tourism is actually a term that refers to the actual use of fear and terror to actually to actually wage war or protest even, and this is done by minorities that don't really have the power or actually the depth or mm, the size to actually confront well, um, their enemies with straight up force. And what they do is that instead of straight up attacking their army against their enemy's army, they just go straight to the people and use fear and terror, just to actually cause panic and get their the message or try to win the war from the inside even. So yeah, that's pretty much what tourism is. And then we're going to talk about the term of unipolar war. Unipolar war talks about a war that is controlled mainly both economically and military by just one entity or just one country. And in our world, that would be the place of the U.S. And the U.S. has pretty much control over it and for everything. And they have the biggest army, the biggest military influence, as well as controlling um, the economic system of the world. Pretty much seems they are a pretty big factor in the economy worldwide. Just following up, we're going to talk about the digital era. It's a pretty self-explanatory concept. It talks about actually the era in which the world moves from, just depending on spread physical things to actually digital devices and electronic devices, all of that. And this talks about a lot what I was talking earlier, the social network era of the natural wave, of course. That's pretty much it. And now that we will straighten out what each of these concepts actually is and what it stands for, then we can talk about some of the most important questions that um, that relate these concepts with history itself. First of all, there is the question of why did globalization even exist, or why did it appear in the world? And this is just due to the way communication has been getting easier and easier and easier with time. First of all, the only way to actually communicate, it started out with being, well, just writing with your hand and, well, just sharing that piece of paper with another person. And, well, that was it, actually. Then, when actually we were moving to press after that, the press actually helped a lot in this regard since it allowed for the mass and, well, sharing of these sorts of documents or even just words. So then it was followed up by the telephone and so on and so forth. Also with well, transportation also helps in communication a lot. Uh, First we go from cars to planes and so on and so forth. And when we, well, with communication getting easier, that's how globalization actually emerged. Since, well, everyone began to actually be able to share their ideas with the entire world. And once we actually, well, pick the best ideas from each specific culture, those are the ones that stick out and the ones that right now are shaping what we call the global culture. So that answers that question. Then we can move to, well, terrorism. What actually created terrorism or led it to happen? And, well, this question is actually so deep and so complicated, but we are going to try to explain it in a very simple and, well, short way. So the main reason why terrorism actually happened is because, mm, well, we could call it actually. So it's the answer to modern imperialism, that is, with the US actually just trying to control everything. In this case, it would be oil in a place where the culture was actually different, trying to force it down the throats, while just actually making a mess over there. And those people, since they were actually so little and so helpless against a powerhouse like the US, they had to resort to this sort of, well, attacks to, well, stick out to actually fight back. That's what the answer was. I'm not going to condone or condemn them, but, well, that's the decision that they made, and that's what actually has led, well, the situation in the Middle East to this day to what it is. So yeah, that pretty much answers that question. Like I said, it was very simple, but I hope that it is clear enough. And then we're going to talk about what actually was the influence that the Cold War had in created what I already explained, the unipolar world. And, well, this question is actually very easy. At the end of the Cold War was actually a fight between the two predominant economic and social systems in the world. That's capitalism and socialism. And since everyone, well, since the US finished winning, it was either transferring to that system or dying at that point. And from that on, the US has had almost total control of the world. And so that answers that question. And then we're going to talk about how the digital era actually influences today's society. Well, this actually is pretty much the same answer as our second question. Well, not that's our second question. The first one, right, the globalization one. The digital era is actually where the fastest and simplest, most effective ways of communication actually exist, and thus it creates work, well, the phenomena like globalization and such to actually boom and shake the world to, well, pretty much the version of it. Yeah, that's pretty much that. So, well, all of this information, I think we're done. I think we covered all our lessons for this class. I hope everyone, well, actually was able to learn a little bit about all of this. And, well, I hoping you will stick out for our next lessons. Thank you. Have a good night. Bye bye, my babies.